Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. It is Thursday, February the 13th. Hope everyone is having a fine Thursday afternoon. Zach, we had plenty of success in the DFS streets last night. It was we were, I wouldn't say worried, but we were just, there was a lot of uncertainty on how everything was going to play out yesterday. Exactly how DFS would look. By all accounts, my projections performed spectacularly, better than I could have even hoped for. We had a really good show in terms of accuracy and finding some of the great spots to target, Sidney Crosby being one of them. Both teams' third lines were great value options. Gustav Forsling on the blue line, great value option. I mean, we nailed it yesterday, and I don't know if maybe we just got lucky or if this is a sign of things to come. But before we get back into the DFS action, I mean, I said it on the show yesterday. I didn't understand why people weren't excited about this. I thought it was going to be great. I thought it was going to be super exciting. I couldn't wait for it to happen. But I think that even my expectations were exceeded in just how quality the hockey was last night. It was every bit as good as you could have hoped for. And hopefully that's another just a sign of things to come for this tournament, because it was an absolute blast last night.
Yeah, it absolutely was, man. I mean, from the second that the Sportsnet intro started rolling with the Tragically Hip song, Courage for Human,
100%.
I was fired the hell up, man.
Yep.
I was like ready to go. The start to the game was incredible, right? Canada gets the early power play opportunity. You've got the McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon magic that we've been waiting, a decade to see on the international ice together. And the rest of the game just didn't disappoint. It felt like early on, especially, they were still like just kind of, everybody was kind of flying around the ice. And then the game kind of settled down a little bit. And it felt like as it got on, it got to more like what we kind of expected to see, I guess, of the best on best hockey. So I was really excited for how it went last night. I'm excited for what looks like another really fun game here this evening as well. So I know I had a pretty solid night last night on DraftKings, finished third in the $1.20 max. So I was really, really happy with that. Hopefully we can keep it going again today. I'm actually wearing the same sweater, the same hat, drinking a Diet Coke again, just like I was yesterday. So I don't know. Hopefully we can keep the magic rolling.
There you go. Yeah, it was a lot of fun yesterday. Tonight should be every bit as fun. But yeah, couldn't have dreamed up a better start. McDavid to Crosby to McKinnon. Let's go. Really, really fun stuff. So tonight we've got the USA versus Finland. The Finns, if you aren't aware, just absolutely decimated coming into this tournament. Lost a number of blue liners. So they're pretty shorthanded, and they're going to be massive underdogs in every single game that they play. And tonight is no different. The money has continued to pour in on the United States. They are now up to minus 375, at least the last time I checked, giving them a 79% implied win percentage. So huge favorites, Team USA. Like we did yesterday, we're going to go over the lineups in depth here at dailyfaceoff.com. And we'll start with the USA. We've got Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Matt Tkachuk on line 1, Jake Gensel, Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes on line 2. Then you've got Brady Tkachuk, JT Miller, and Matt Boldy on line 3. Brock Nelson, Vincent Trocheck, and Dylan Larkin on line 4. Chris Kreider expected to be the healthy scratch for USA tonight, on upfront at least. Zach Werenski and Charlie McAvoy together, Jakob Slavin and Adam Fox, and then you've got Noah Hannafin and Brock Faber together on the third pair. And then on the power play, we saw Jack Hughes on the top power play unit. Early in the first practice, they did shuffle it up. Jake Gensel now on that top power play unit alongside Matt Tkachuk, Austin Matthews, Adam Fox, and Jack Eichel. And then on the second power play unit now, you've got Jack Hughes with Zach Werenski on the point, Brady Tkachuk, Matt Boldy, Kyle Connor to round out the group. For Team Finland, we talked about it already that their blue line is decimated, but up front they still look fairly deep. This is a team that similar to Sweden plays very structured hockey, and I don't think that they're gonna have to play well within their structure to have a chance with this blue line. But up front they still look really, really solid. At least the top 9. You got Lehkonen, Barkov, Rampton in a powerhouse first line that's going to give the U.S. fits tonight. Rupe Hintz, Sebastian Aho, Patrick Laine, plenty of offensive firepower in size on that line. Then you got Eetu Lesterainen, Anton Lundell, Michael Granlund on the third line. Obviously, you got Lucian and Lundell familiar with each other from Florida, and Teravainen, Haula, and Joel Armia on the fourth line. Capo Kakko, the projected scratch up front for Finland. And then it gets pretty bleak. You've got Mikkola, Lindell, Vakanai, Matapalo, Mata, and Yoki Haru on the blue line. I tweeted out yesterday, this would probably be the worst blue line in the NHL. Like, if you stack this blue line up against all 32 teams in the NHL, this would probably be the worst blue line. Now, they're not playing NHL games. They are playing against 3 offensive powerhouses. They are going to have their hands absolutely full. We'll get into the kind of weeds of it all. I anticipate Esa Lindell is going to play massive minutes. And I think Mikkola will probably play massive minutes as well. And you said yesterday you wouldn't be shocked if only Mata sees huge minutes either. But this top pair, I think, is going to be leaned on extremely heavily. And I think that they're both good value plays just for the amount of minutes alone that they're likely to see this evening. Because of all the defensive injuries, like you obviously have no Miro Heiskanen, the Team Finland is elected to go with a 5-forward power play 1. So Alexander Barkov is expected to operate as the kind of point man, run things as a defenseman with Laine on one of his flanks, Mikko Rantanen on the other flank. Then you got Rupe Hintz in the bumper and Sebastian Aho out front. Then you've got Arturi Lehkonen, Lindell, Tara Vainen, Mikael Granlund, and then S. Lindell on the power play. So Lindell, the only defenseman that's even going to see any power play time for Finland tonight, and probably going to just see all the minutes that he can possibly handle. You probably got to be a little bit nervous as a Dallas fan right now. You've got Heiskanen already injured, and then you've got Lindell going to be playing like 30 minutes a night for Team Finland tonight. So, as I mentioned, massive favorites for Team USA. Let's dive into the projections tonight. Unsurprisingly, very top heavy for the USA. Their top 6 well represented in the top end of the projections tonight. Coming out up top is Austin Matthews. He's also projected to be the highest owned player on the slate by a considerable margin, nearly double the second highest, Connor Hellebuck. Zach, we thought that the goalies were going to be a little bit more popular yesterday than they ended up being by a lot. And neither goalie ended up being a very good place. The field was actually right in being lower owned on the goalies. I had a ton of leverage on Jordan Binnington, and it didn't really pay off. Some of those late goals kind of hurt that. Do you think that we're going to see similar ownership tonight of the goalies? Like, obviously, UC Saros isn't going to garner a lot of ownership, but do you expect Connor Hellebuck to be a little bit lower owned, similar to what we saw yesterday with the goalies?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, what did we see yesterday? Some real low volume in terms of the shooting from both sides throughout that game. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it kind of scared off the players today from playing the goaltenders again here tonight. I mean, you take a look at Jordan Binnington, made 23 saves last night. Philip Gustafsson, 24. Not terrible numbers or anything like that, but I think we were expecting a little bit more volume. I wonder if, like, as the tournament goes on, we start to see that increase a little bit in each team's second and third games here, because when you look at it, like, there's still so much chemistry that's trying to be built here right now for all of these teams. Obviously for the US and Finland here tonight, their first games of the tournament, first time we're seeing these lines and these pairings together. So it wouldn't surprise me to see this game being a little bit of a lower volume game. In the same breath, it also feels like maybe there's more shooters on these two teams than necessarily what we saw from Canada and Sweden. There we go. Third time's the charm than last night. So yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens, but it wouldn't surprise me at the least to see them come in lower owned again, the goaltenders. I was very heavy on both goaltenders. Thankfully, I still had a Binnington lineup that ended up paying off and getting me up to third. So I think that goaltenders are still definitely viable, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them around that 20-25% mark again.
I think that the volume and the shot volume from both sides was actually a bit of a mirage yesterday, because there actually was a ton of volume. When you take a look at the numbers, I mean, the Corsi fours for both teams, 69 shot attempts for Sweden, 57 shot attempts for Canada last night. Especially from the blue line, I was going through it. The shot block numbers seemed really high yesterday, right? Like, you had a bunch of forwards that aren't usually guys that are blocking, hitting the shot block bonus last night. And I was looking at the numbers, and there was a lot of point shots last night. Like, Erik Karlsson had, I think, 7 shot attempts, only 1 got through on net. Similar to Victor Hedman, I think he had 6 shot attempts, only 1 got through. There was a lot of kind of perimeter point shots coming from both teams that weren't necessarily getting on target. There was a lot of shot blocking, similar to what you would see in a playoff game in the NHL playoffs. So we were kind of questioning, how much shot blocking is there going to be? We got our answer yesterday. We said on yesterday's show, we're going to have a much better idea of what this tournament is going to have tomorrow after today's game. And it is real, high event hockey. Up tempo, everyone's trying their asses off. So I do think that the shot volume, which probably could have been higher. There was a lot of just kind of maybe not grade A looks that weren't getting through, because the shot attempts are on par with like something you would see from the Carolina Hurricanes, right? Like a 70 shot attempt game. That's incredible volume. Now, there was a 5-minute overtime that was absolutely electric. That certainly bumped those numbers up. But, there was no shortage of shot attempts in the first 3 periods either. So I do think that might be a little bit, fraudulent, just how low the shot volume ended up actually being. But, in the same breath, tonight, if you take a look at the sports books, not expecting a whole lot for Connor Hellebuck. His save total is set at just 22.5, with an over of minus 105. So they're not expecting him to see much volume at all, which I think is fair given how big underdogs Finland is. And then on the Finnish side of things, you've got UC Saros in a save line of 31.5 at minus 120. So obviously expecting a lot more volume for him. It just really, yesterday I said it. I was confident, or not confident, but comfortable building Sweden heavy lineups with Philip Gustafsson, thinking that they can definitely keep this close and maybe win. I ended up saying that I thought the score was going to be 4-3, and it ended up being 4-3. I don't feel quite as confident that Finland's going to be able to hang here. This is a just absolutely deep and dominant looking U.S. team. And then honestly, even if Finland's able to generate chances, they still got to get past Connor Hellebuck, who's having a season of the ages this year. So let's dive into the numbers a bit here. Let's start on the USA side of things. If you take a look at the props, I've included the DraftKings prop lines here as well on the charts today. And they are really big favorites or fans of the Matthews and Jack Hughes duo. They have the two lowest implied anytime goal scoring odds tonight. Anytime point odds, the second and third best. And then in terms of the shot volume alone, they're the only two with a line at 4.5. So that duo looks to be the one to target going into tonight. We talked about how Austin Matthews is the highest projected owned player on the slate, but Jack Hughes at just 30% comes in a little bit lower, and just $9,200. I really like trying to build around that duo specifically. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to the other line of Eichel, Kachuk, and Connor either, but I do feel like I'm probably going to start a lot of builds with Matthews Hughes. You can obviously include Jake Gensel, who got bumped up to that top power play unit as well. Where are you planning on starting your builds with the U.S. tonight?
The exact same spot as you, actually. My first couple of builds have kind of been around that second line for the United States with Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes, and Jake Gensel. I think they're in a great spot here, just when you look at this line as a whole. Jack Hughes is a great setup, man. I think he's going to work really well with two shooters in Gensel and Austin Matthews. So this is a trio that I'm definitely going to be building around quite a bit of my lineups here tonight on this slate. You take a look at that top line again. I don't think it's a terrible option to build around them either. We've seen what guys like Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, and Matthew Tkachuk can do, as a whole in NHL games. So I don't mind either option. Kyle Connor coming in with like 21% ownership, the lowest owned of the top 6 guys for the Americans. I think he's a guy that I'm probably going to be getting a little bit over the field on as well. And I'm probably going to be pretty comfortable meeting the field on the rest of these ownership numbers. Probably coming in a little bit heavier on Jack Hughes, coming in at 30%. I don't mind getting a little bit of leverage there in this spot. But Austin Matthews, man, 66% projected ownership. Thanks to our friends at RotoGrinders for providing that for us here today. That's a pretty massive number to see on a showdown slate.
Yeah, without question. The volume shooters in this top 6 for the Americans, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. We know Jack Hughes loves to fire the pill. We know that Austin Matthews loves to fire the pill. Same thing, Jack Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk, Kyle, those guys rack it up. It's going to be interesting to see where the shots end up falling. Yesterday, I really liked the third lines from both teams. I don't know necessarily exactly how I feel about the depth here of the Americans, but like, JT Miller, Matt Boldy, Brady Tkachuk, obviously aligned with a tremendous amount of talent as well. And I don't mind kind of going back to the well here in the third lines that are kind of getting overlooked. They got overlooked yesterday and they both hit. So, this is obviously a talented trio as well. We saw JT Miller really start to play a little bit better after getting traded to the Rangers. Matt Boldy's had a good season. Brady Tkachuk's come around as of late. Shot volume is always insane. Brady Tkachuk, super expensive, but just 9.7% ownership. Matt Boldy, just 6.7% ownership. And JT Miller, 8.7%. So they're cheaper. They're getting overlooked. You got some power play exposure, some power play correlation with Tkachuk and Boldy. They're also on the Zach Werenski power play unit. So like a Tkachuk, Boldy, Werenski stack might be something that's pretty viable. They're all pretty low owned. Werenski at just 17%. I have him projecting extremely well, especially at just $8,200. Like that is a kind of lower owned stack that I'm definitely looking at tonight because it worked yesterday. And, if you take a look at the ice time, the third line's played a little bit less, but they were up there as well. They're going to get their ice time. They're super talented. The one line that I would probably shy away from tonight is the fourth lines. We really saw it yesterday. There wasn't a whole lot of ice time to go around for the fourth lines of Canada or Sweden. Like they've seen a decent amount, but like Gustav Nyquist was at like 10 minutes. Like you're probably going to see something a little bit similar. Maybe more ice time for these guys just because they're expected to see quite a bit of penalty killing for Trocheck and Dylan Larkin and Brock Nelson. So they might get a little bit more ice time in that role. But, I guess the one thing that they have going for them is if the U.S. is able to kind of blow this one open, maybe they lean on them a little bit more in garbage time and they could end up being viable in that regard. But, they aren't seeing any ownership whatsoever, all projecting for about 1%. So if you're playing some deep tournaments, you want to take some dart throws, maybe USA wins this game 6-1 or something like that, and they're able to get some garbage time goals. But my leverage or low owned spot is definitely more coming through US 3 tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I agree with you there as well. I mean, Brady Tkachuk looks like a great play at $8,800. Big time volume shooter. A guy that can score a lot of goals, generates a lot of high quality chances. Over his last 20 NHL games, 1.6 individual expected goals per hour of ice time. That's second to only Matthew Tkachuk. That's third to Matthew Tkachuk and Dylan Larkin for the last 20 games. So I'm expecting some big stuff from him. Guy who absolutely loves to shoot the puck. I know I bet on his shot prop today over 2.5. I think it looks like a really great play there. I think it was -130 on Bet365. JT Miller's a great setup man too. And I think that's what's really going to be interesting about this line here. You've got Matt Boldy there, who's also a volume shooter, 11.1 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 NHL games. So I'm going to be comfortable building around JT Miller at just 5K. I think that's a really nice price point for him here tonight on this slate, and not shying away from those mini stacks to fill out some lineups. So I think that's a really solid route to go. I do agree with you on that fourth line. Don't really see a whole lot there that's super, super interesting to me. No power play time for those guys. They're going to be expected to kind of play the depth defensive sort of matchup roles. So I agree. I'm not really going to be getting down there. You mentioned the blue line. I think Zach Werenski looks awesome tonight. For the Americans, coming in with just 17% ownership at $8,200. This is a guy who's been absolutely on fire this season. Lots of shot volume for him, lots of block volume as well. So he's somebody who's definitely going to be live for a really solid night. And I think the interesting thing about Werenski too, he's projecting for 17% ownership. Meanwhile, we're seeing Adam Fox coming in with 30% right now. And you got to imagine a lot of that is going to be because of the power play builds and stuff like that people are clearly flocking to here in this tournament format. So got a lot of interest in Werenski. He's definitely a guy at 17%. I'll be well over the field on as well.
Yeah, I mean, Werenski, let's take a look at the value here. Werenski grading out tremendously well for me, third best overall. So definitely a guy that I'm going to have plenty of exposure to this evening. The U.S., I think, is really going with this like balanced power play approach. I wouldn't be totally shocked if we see fairly similar usage out of these two units. Obviously, though, like with the much talent on that top unit, like there's a chance that every single time they go out there, they convert and the second power play unit doesn't even get a shot. But like, again, if this game kind of gets out of hand, I think that the Americans are going to elect to try to get both units some ice time to try to work on some of that chemistry because there's just not enough time to do that in a short tournament like this. So they're going to get their ice time if they get some power plays. And yeah, like I love Werenski. He's going to play a ton of minutes on that top pair with Charlie McAvoy as well. I really do think that he's a tremendous play, a guy that also loves to shoot the puck, as we know from the blue line. So at $8,200, absolutely love Werenski tonight. Some of the better value options tonight in terms of projections. Noah Hannafin looks okay, 17 and a half minutes at just $3,200. Looks super cheap as well. Jake Gensel, you mentioned him, 7K is really, really cheap for the usage he's going to have tonight. Second line with Matthews and Hughes also on that top power play unit. And Slavin at 4K looks okay as well. Then you've got kind of the fourth liners here at the bottom. So, oops. Okay, let's move over now to the Finnish side of things. It's interesting, right? Like, this team is really probably not going to score a lot of goals tonight, I don't imagine. But Barkov's probably the guy that I have the most interest in. I think that, he's going to obviously be leaned on super heavily. That top line is going to have to carry the load for Finland for this entire tournament for the most part. The fact that he's a guy that, can eat big minutes at 5v5. He's also going to be the guy that's probably touching the puck the most on the power play if they get any opportunities, really kind of trying to find Rantanen on one flank or Laine on the other flank. Like, Barkov's probably factoring into a Finnish goal tonight if they get on the board. He's probably the guy that I have the most interest in, and at $7,600, I think he's super easy to build around or include, I guess. Aho, Hintz are up there as well. Like, those would be Aho, Barkov, Hintz. They're the three that grade out the best. They're reasonably priced, all three of them. Like, I don't feel like I really need to get up to Mikko Rantanen at $9,400. Laine is more expensive than Hintz and only a little bit cheaper than Aho. I think that I'm just going to be probably focusing more on Aho, Hintz, and Barkov as just kind of my last man in. Probably a lot of 5x1 builds for me tonight, focusing heavily on USA, and then Aho, Barkov, Hintz mixed in there as my last man in. And when I need salary relief, as I mentioned already, Lindell probably my favorite of the bunch. Projected for 22 minutes. Won't be shocked if that's way higher than that tonight. A guy that's, never shies away from, being a shot blocker, and is a guy that also just, has lots of volume, across the board, always has a pretty good floor in Dallas. If he plays 25 minutes tonight, he's going to be a great play at $4,200. And we talked about it already. Oli Mata, another guy that just does not hesitate to block the puck at all. At 21 minutes projected tonight, he's going to have plenty of opportunities. So those five are the ones that I'm mainly focused on tonight. Anybody else that sticks out to you? Like, are you willing to pay that $6,400 for power play one Patrick Laine? Are you going anywhere else? Maybe $5,400 for Lehkonen?
Yeah, I'm comfortable building around that second line. I think Rupe Hintz at $5,200 might be one of my favorite plays on the slate as a whole. He's been just on fire in Dallas over his last 20 games, 1.6 goals per hour, 3.3 points per hour, both, high marks for this entire Finnish side. So I think he's a guy that I'm going to be well over the field on at 25% ownership. Aho and Laine, I like the look of them as well. They're not overly expensive. $6,800 for Aho, I think, is a pretty fair price. Laine, $6,400. The concern for me with Laine is just like, is he going to have the confidence here at this tournament? And like, that's kind of seems to be the issue for Laine over the last number of years. Like, when he's hot and he's feeling it, like, boy, he's really, really hot. But, if he's kind of cooled off, he doesn't seem to kind of have his game, especially in terms of providing a floor with shot volume or anything like that. As you pull up the odds there, plus 425 to score on this slate. I don't hate that number. I actually bet his shot prop. It was over 1.5 on 365. So I didn't mind that one whatsoever, or minus 140 rather. So I think he's a decent play. Probably be around 15-20% on him. But I really like the look of this second line for the Finns. I think they're definitely one that I'm going to be targeting quite a bit. I also don't mind playing some 3,600 Anton Lundell either. I think he's a real fine, solid option, solid pay down option there as well.
Yeah, like for me, like you look at the prop market here, you got Laine kind of hovering right around Rupe Hintz in all of these categories, and he's $1,200 more expensive. I think I'm just going to end up getting to Hintz to save a little bit of salary if I need to. But we take a look back at the ownership here. Hintz at 25% and Laine at 22%. So yeah, really not a huge difference there either. I just feel a little bit more comfortable with Rupe's game than I do Laine. Okay, Zach, we're going to do something. We kind of did it yesterday, but we're going to do this moving forward. We're each going to give our favorite pay up option, one each, pay up option from each team and value option from each team. So why don't you go first? Who's your pay up and value option from Team USA?
Yeah, from the American side, I think my favorite pay up option is probably going to be Jack Hughes at $9,200. He looks to be in a great spot here. on this slate. In terms of some pay down options, I really like the look of Noah Hannafin at $3,200. Projects, well in terms of value. This is a guy we're going to see killing some penalties, projecting for 17 and a half minutes tonight, block some shots, take some shots. I think he's probably my favorite value play from this American side.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab the low hanging fruit here with Austin Matthews as a pay up spot. I think it makes a ton of sense at 10,600, only a little bit more expensive than Eichel. I think that he's a much better play, just so much volume. I like Matthews a lot. I'll eat that chalk for sure. Pay down, it is a little bit tough. There's not a ton of great value on the American side. You're gonna have to try to find some of these middling pieces, and then maybe find your value over on the Finnish side of things. But yeah, Jacob Slavin at 4K on that, pairing with Adam Fox, I think is a fine play there. At $4,000, a guy that kind of just does a little bit of everything. Probably going to see a lot of minutes tonight. And then maybe just an honorable mention. I do think that JT Miller line is super sneaky again tonight. I'm going to go back to those third lines. So JT Miller, interesting at 5K. Okay. From the Finnish side of things, I already said it that my favorite pay up is Alexander Barkov at $7,600. I think he is the best one there. And then my pay down, without question, is going to be Esa Lindell at $4,200. If he comes in at 25% ownership, I'm going to be, definitely north of the field on that. He just looks like such a good play here. How about you?
Yeah, I don't mind that one whatsoever. Pay up option for me, $9,400 for Mikko Rantanen feels a little bit steep, just given some of the other value plays that I think we're seeing on this Finland side. But I don't mind getting there. I mean, this is a guy who's always had success in international tournaments. Since he came into the NHL, he's been in a couple of World Cups for Finland, and he's been a point per game player internationally in all of them. So I don't mind paying up to get a little bit different here with Mikko Rantanen at $9,400. Pay down option for me, Oli Mata. I think he's just going to be a rock solid play here tonight. He's somebody we've seen his block volume really increase over the last 20, 30 games with the Utah Hockey Club playing some larger minutes, projecting for 21 minutes, the third most of any, or the second most rather, of any Finnish defenseman. I think he's going to be a great play here tonight on this slate. Guy I'm going to be well over the field on.
All right. And like we did yesterday, our final thoughts on the game. Let's hear your game prediction, final score, and who is going to be the highest scoring DraftKings player tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 4-1 American win here. I think it's going to be pretty hard for the Finns to really get a whole ton of offense going. Highest scoring DraftKings player. Let's go a little bit off the board. I talked about liking him quite a bit as a pay-up option. Give me Jack Hughes at $9,200.
Yeah, I like Jack Hughes a lot tonight too. Okay, my score prediction, I'm going to go one higher. I'm going to go 5-1 Team USA win so that over hits. 5-1 win for Team USA, highest scoring player on the slate. Let's go with Zach Werenski. You're going to see a lot more shots coming from the point again tonight. I think he's going to get some through. I like Zach Werenski, $8,200. Best of luck tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button so we can continue to bring you these live streams every day of the Four Nations tournament. As you may know, the tournament takes a break tomorrow and then returns with 2 games on Saturday. So Zach and I will be live Saturday morning. I believe the first game is 1 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to try to come live around 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. Keep an eye out. I'll probably have more details tomorrow, but we're going to try to come live around 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday to get you ready for the first 2-game slate of the tournament. That is going to be way more interesting than these little 1-game showdowns. It's going to be super fun on Saturday. We also, we've got Canada, USA. How much more fun can that be? Best of luck tonight. Hopefully you return more money in your bankroll tonight than you had tomorrow than you had tonight. And if you have just tuned in, just found us on X or just found us on YouTube and you want access, these charts are 100% free. You can get them on dailyfaceoff.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. See you out here on Saturday. Cheers.